Hello guys, my name is Mike Brown and this is my confession camera assignment for 632. So as I said, my name is Mike Brown. This is my 12th year at Penn Manor School District. I am mainly a face-to-face teacher in an 8th grade classroom. I am a physical science teacher, so I teach mainly chemistry and physics, but we have a touch of a couple other different sciences to meet the standards and get us ready for the dreaded four-letter word that is the PSSA testing for 8th graders. So we have the PSSAs, which is the first time the kiddos see it since 4th grade in science. So there's a lot of content on that test. My building is a one-to-one building or district, Penn Manor. We have Linux machines that all the students have, laptops available to them. And I am, I guess, what you could classify as a low-level blended class. I have integrated Google Classroom into my room and utilize it quite a bit, but I'm still mainly a face-to-face classroom, just with that little bit of extra digital emphasis. As far as the program goes, I'm currently working on my master's in online ed. I'm about halfway through, so I've taken, I think this will be my 5th of the 10 classes in the program. As far as the classes go, that includes the remaining capstone course that Dr. Drian mentioned. My true thought about the online process and why I went with this is because I feel that sooner or later, all classrooms are going to have some form of online integration or online component to it. So I really wanted to embrace that, going, head first into this, and instead of trying to dodge it, because I know it's going to happen. I embrace the technology. I see its pitfalls as well to some degree. However, I think there's a real useful tool in there. I feel really education is not really contained by the walls of a school building anymore. That notion is kind of going away. I've taken enough of these courses and had enough conversations with colleagues that online ed is really taking off. So it's kind of cool to be within that perspective of taking these courses. I always think back, there was a picture not too long ago that was released from a group of students that were under an underpass in, I think it was India, and the students were learning with their teacher under an underpass for a highway in which they were using one of the pylons as a chalkboard. So, education can happen anywhere, is really what it comes down to. And using these tools, I think is just making it better. What I've really been surprised with the online courses that I've taken in this grad program is I'm surprised with how much goes into an online class. I've in the different classes that I've taken, I've seen a whole bunch of different types of online classes. Some that are out of the box, if you will, for programs like Edgenuity. My district has that in their cyber program, where the teacher's more of a facilitator instead of an actual guide or educator, if you will. They're more of just helping the students get through all the grading and the nitty gritty of that, but they're not presenting the lessons. And then I've seen fully synchronous lessons, which very much mirror a classroom, other than it's just in the digital format. And then even as the program goes, the asynchronous content that we have in the grad program, however, it's developed by the educator, so it's kind of a blended format in that sense, that the professors at Millersville have control over that content, in where some teachers don't have that luxury. What I've come across in those classes is how important rapport and relationships matter in education. I've kind of always known that. However, I think in the online forum, it really is a mainstay or a really important aspect that you have to develop and nurture to make sure that you have success with your students in the online classroom. In the class that I just took, 633. There was a YouTube video we watched in which the presenter said, "Kids don't learn from teachers they don't like," and that kind of rung true with me. I fully believe that. You really have to build those relationships and earn that with the students until you can really start, getting the true learning process to happen. And that's hard to do in an online class. I think that's hard to establish. So, in taking these courses, it's one of the things that I'm seeing. The other thing is how much of a motivator or how much motivation is actually needed on the student's part. Where in a face-to-face classroom, it's a lot different. Even my mere presence of walking up to a student and tapping on their desk, or helping them along, giving them a little nudge on a paper or something like that, or a lab, can keep them going. But in the online classroom, those little nudges aren't as available. It's harder to keep students going, so they have to be extremely activated or extremely motivated in an active way. The mere presence of the teacher doesn't really matter anymore. We can show up in a chat or we can show up in a synchronous meeting time, but it really comes down to how much work they're willing to put in. And I've seen this in a couple of my colleagues that do the Edgenuity classes, is how easily students can fall behind in the content because they're not feeling it, and they're able to slip behind pretty quickly, and all that workload builds up on them. That kind of takes me to my philosophy. As far as that goes, my philosophy of ed is pretty straightforward. I feel that the classroom, it should be a safe place where students feel free to look at the content in a meaningful way. And my role as a teacher is to act as a guide in that presence. As far as the classroom goes, I see it as both an intellectual learning ground and a social learning ground, especially at the middle level at which I teach. It makes it a tough job, but it also makes it rewarding when you see the kids making those connections that are going to foster more development in the future. However, as far as my philosophy goes, it has changed. When I first started teaching, I viewed myself more as like a teacher-centered classroom. I was the smartest guy in the classroom, so the students should listen to me because I know what I'm talking about. That's I'm trying to get away from that. Sometimes I still feel that way when I'm doing lecture, but that whole student-centered orientation is what I'm trying to push towards, and how I can take that to the online format as well. Because I truly do feel that the mission of education hasn't really changed. It's just the whole, we need to update the shag carpet and the wallpaper, because the method that we're using is antiquated, but the mission's still there. We're still trying to make the group of people we're educating, these young people, better than us, and that's really the end goal here, is to make them better, to then continue that process, to make them develop in the content that we know, so they can proceed forward from us. And whether we do that in an online format or in a classroom, I think the mission's still there. It's just finding new and innovative ways to reach the students to get them there. As far as how is my time in the classes influenced my face-to-face classroom, quite significantly. One of the things that I do now more than I ever have is share with the kids not only the unit objectives, but daily objectives that I write on my board, just so they understand my process in developing the curriculum for them, as well as the standards that they've been presented with, just to give them an idea of how the learning process is going and what their stake is versus mine, to make sure that they feel like they're an active participant here. Because in all actuality, if you can get them on board with that, you get a lot better results, because they see the value in it. I also focus a lot of time on collaboration in my classroom. It's one of the things I struggled with when I first started teaching. However, as far as going into the online classroom, I think it's something I would love to do a lot more with. However, it's something I take for granted in the face-to-face environment. So learning how to implement that effectively in an online forum is one of my missions in these classes. I feel it's a lot harder to manage in an online forum and making sure that you get the results you're looking for, especially since science is very much a kind of content that requires you to have ability in a lot of different content areas. It takes reading skills, it takes writing skills, math skills to do the chemistry and the physics that we do. So having that collaboration piece in the face-to-face classroom is awesome. The kids can bounce their ideas off of each other. Taking that into the online classroom is one of the things that I'm very interested in learning some methods and how to do that. So I think that covers all the prompts here. I look forward to working with all of you. A couple of you I recognize your names from the previous classes, so it's great to see your names and faces again. So I look forward to a very successful class. Thank you very much.